Well, there was a hearing today for a Marine Corps reservist whose career is now in jeopardy. This guy could be dishonorably discharged, and wait until you hear why. Major Jason Brezler tried to warn his fellow Marines of an Afghan police chief's link to the Taliban. Brezler saying he was just trying to do the right thing by issuing this warning, but the problem is he sent the warning through an unclassified channel. It was basically his personal Yahoo email account. Well, that warning was ultimately ignored. And days later, sure enough, 3 Marines lost their lives after a Taliban attack that was linked to the very man Mr. Brezler was trying to warn them about. Among those killed, Lance Corporal Gregory Buckley Jr. He was just 21 years old. Well, earlier today, his father and his aunt attended the hearing in Major Brezler's case down in New Orleans, and they support Mr. Brezler for sounding the alarm about this threat. Joining me tonight in a Kelly File exclusive, Father Greg Buckley Sr. and Aunt Mary Liz Grossetto. Thank you both so much for being here. Greg, let me start with you. So your son was killed, and our condolences to you and our thanks to you for his service. Why do you now support Brezler in this? Basically, they're trying to kick him out of the military and dishonorably discharge him for using a personal email account. Right.
Well, I personally feel that he tried to save my son and his fellow Marines, and that's what my son was all about. He was all about the Marine Corps and brotherhood. And they all stick together, and they make sure they watch over each other. And that's all he tried to do is, you know, he knew something bad was going to happen, as so did my son, months before when he called home and told me that he was going to be murdered in Afghanistan on his base. And Brezler came out and he said, Jason, you know, what he came out and said was the truth. But they just went to dead ears, and they just choose not to do anything about it. And because of the negligence of them, my son ended up losing his life with 2 other Marines on August 10th, 17 days later.
I want the audience to know that that Major Brezler was warning about a guy named Sarwar John, yes, who was routinely allowed on U.S. military bases. And yes, his assessment of this guy was dead on. He was saying that he should not be allowed on the bases. And sure enough, it's this guy on the right who, excuse me, who they were saying was sexually abusing minors. And they said, sure enough, one of his alleged victims opened fire, killing the 3 U.S. Marines. So Brezler's warnings were correct. Now, last night, Catherine Herridge reported that there is a suggestion, because a lot of people are raising, scratching their heads and saying, why are they trying to basically court-martial or kick out of the military the one guy who tried to warn about the dangers here? And she suggested it could be that those who did not heed the warning on the other side, we're not talking about the 3 victims, are better connected politically in the military than is Major Brezler. Let me put that question to you, Mary Liz. Do you believe that that is the case, that's why this is happening?
I do believe that's the case, and I also believe going after Brezler is a smokescreen. Clearly, somebody dropped the ball. We still have not heard anything about who was the last or the highest command that received the communication from Brezler, and we do know it went up the chain. We do not know who made the decision to do nothing, to ignore it, and that's the person that the Marines should be going after. That's the person that should be held accountable. But instead, they're going after Major Brezler. And I think really it's just to detract from the fact that someone higher up, who probably is better connected than Brezler, is the one that dropped the ball and is ultimately responsible for those 3 Marines being dead.
And this guy, and Major Brezler, he sent it through his personal Yahoo account, but he notified his superiors of the error almost immediately. There was no bad will. It was just a mistake. And now they basically want to, one of the most punitive results possible. Greg, let me ask you what you think is really going on here.
I just think it's pretty much of a cover-up. It just doesn't pan out what they're doing to this young man. He's a highly decorated officer. I don't think it's right what they're doing to my family either. It's 17 months, and we still haven't had a report on my son's execution. It wasn't a murder. He was executed. Yeah. 21-year-old boy executed in Afghanistan.
We have more questions than answers, and I know that this hearing is partially closed to you. We're going to continue to follow this. Thank you for coming on with your story. And again, thank you for your family sacrifice.
Thank you.
Just ahead, we'll have more details on this federal